Texas is known for its vastness, its scorching sun, and its resilience. But in 2025, something shifted. Nature stopped playing by the rules. What started as a typical summer rain turned into the greatest nightmare in the state's modern history. If you were there, in the silence of those July nights, the sound you'd hear wasn't just water. It was the sound of century-old trees snapping like toothpicks, the groan of houses being ripped from their foundations, and worst of all, the absolute silence of the alert systems that failed when people needed them most. Today, we're diving into the real accounts, the grim news, and the recent events that prove that in Texas, the trauma of the water is far from over. Get ready. To understand the fear Texans feel today, we have to go back to the early hours of July 4th, 2025. While many were preparing to celebrate, the sky collapsed. In just a few hours, over 20 inches of rain fell across the hill country region. The Guadalupe River, usually a place for recreation, transformed into a monster. In just 45 minutes, the water level rose a staggering 26 feet. It was too fast for anyone to react. The most devastating account came from Camp Mystic, a summer camp for girls. Imagine the scene. Dozens of children sleeping in cabins by the riverbank. At 5 a.m., it was pitch black. There were no sirens, no warnings, just the roar of a wall of water slamming into the cabins. We didn't hear the water coming. We heard the trees hitting the walls. When I put my feet on the floor, the water was already at my knees. The girls were screaming, but the sound of the river was louder than any human voice. In that tragedy, 28 children and counselors lost their lives at that camp alone. In total, the 2025 floods left more than 137 dead and hundreds missing. The scene was apocalyptic. Drones flying over miles of debris, finding cars stacked on top of each other, and human remains caught in tree canopies 30 feet in the air. You might think the worst is over, but the last few days in Texas have proven that the wound is still wide open. In these final weeks of March 2026, the state was hit by a new wave of bizarre weather events. On March 8th, in Roma and Rio Grande City, a supercell storm brought something that looked like a scene from a horror movie. Baseball-sized hail began shattering windows while flash flooding surged through the streets. In less than 40 minutes, 2.5 inches of rain turned dry neighborhoods into violent rivers. Governor Greg Abbott has just renewed the disaster proclamation for dozens of counties. The message is clear. The state is still in a state of collapse. Resident quote, "The sound of the hail hitting the glass sounded like someone trying to break into my house with a sledgehammer. And then the water started seeping under the door. That same black water from 2025. The panic comes back instantly." Reports indicate that in the last few days, the Texas soil simply cannot absorb another drop. Roads are being peeled away by the force of the water, and 10-foot deep sinkholes are appearing out of nowhere in residential backyards. There is one detail that has the population in a constant state of vigil. Tomorrow, April 2nd, 2026, the Texas Division of Emergency Management will conduct a statewide test of the public alert system. For many, the sound of those sirens and the vibration of their phones won't just be a test. It will be a trigger for trauma. After the critical failures of 2025, public trust is at zero. People are stockpiling supplies. They look at the sky every time a dark cloud passes, because they know the weather forecast is just an estimate, but the fury of the water is a certainty.
Texas is a land of survivors, but even the strongest tremble when the sky turns dark now. The final toll of 2025 was $22 billion in damages and lives that will never be recovered. And as you listen to this, somewhere in hill country, a creek level is rising again. If you live in Texas, pay attention to the signs. If the water starts to rise, don't wait for the siren, because, as we learned the cruelest way possible, sometimes the siren only sounds when it's already too late to run. Stay safe and try to get some sleep if the sound of the rain lets you.